Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. Hello, everybody. And today we're going over something a little bit different here at the end of 2021. It's this time of year to make these kind of videos. So now we're looking at the future, going into 22, or if some of you are already there, hello. We're going to be going over. I was able to pull together 4 teams that need new, modernized logos, or at least a variance of a new logo for their main uniforms. Now, we've seen a couple of teams here over the past couple of years. We'll go back a little bit. The Florida Panthers, when they went from the Leaping Panther to the new coat of arms jersey, that has been pretty well received. The Carolina Hurricanes are a little bit more of a mixed path to where they're at. They've always had the swirling Carolina. Maybe we'll get there, and they're kind of changing things up, but continuing that change, right? But what about some other teams around the league, right? What about teams like Detroit, Montreal, the Rangers? What about those teams, right? Could they ever get a new logo? And we're not talking about that this year. I don't think any of those teams should be touched. I believe they are partially untouchable. Not going to say 100%. I'm going to say 95% rate that they are untouchable. Because the thing is, you have to find a logo that not only, right, is going to be something new and modern and sleek and probably make some money off jersey sales. You have to remember the history and the past of those teams. Look at the Montreal Canadiens, their success with this current logo. It's going to be hard to deviate from that. And then you add a potential really bad couple of seasons. They say it's bad luck to go away from your classic look. And you could make that argument. I mean, you look at the Islanders through the Fish Sticks logo era, right? What did they end up going back to? Their current logo. The Buffalo Sabres, perfect example, right? They went to the Goat Head, then the Buffalo Slug. And look where they've been throughout that entire era. And they still haven't gotten back to that, even with their new, bringing back those 80s Buffalo Sabres jerseys. So then comes the question, what teams are going to be able to make a better logo than the one they have now? And that's why I'm wearing the Caps jersey today. And that's where we're going to start today's video. The Washington Capitals' primary logo has to change. That is number 4 on our list. Now, if you look through the history of their logos, their inaugural expansion season, they had that logo for 20 years, from 1974 up until 1995. They had that jersey for exactly 20 years. Then going into the 1995-96 season, they went to the Screamin' Eagle logo, which we all know today. And they had that logo. They had the Capitals word mark under it. That was only for a season. And then they eventually switched that after 2 years to just the Screamin' Eagle logo. And that didn't go away till the 2001-2002 NHL season. So that was very short-lived. It was really a 7-year, time span where we saw the Screamin' Eagle, and maybe we'll see that return one day. But then the Capitals started to go back to the word mark in a different form. From 2002 up until 2007, the Washington Capitals went with a logo that had 2 hockey sticks crossing each other, a puck, 2 stars, and the White House. Now, you may be wondering to yourself, what the hell? What is this? That's not a hockey team. That's not threatening, right? So that kind of survived, again, for 5 years, but it wasn't anything great. It was the beginning of the Ovechkin era in Washington, and that may have been part of the appeal to it. And again, it's that same color scheme from the Screamin' Eagle days, all the way back to the 1997 season. And now, for the first time, in the 2007-2008 NHL season, the Washington Capitals modernized the earlier iteration of the Washington Capitals logo from their expansion era. And it looks very similar, and it's very much a little bit more sleek. You could really nitpick. The colors are a little bit different. The font is a little bit different. But we've seen throughout, from 2007 when this jersey was released and this new word mark was released until now, here going into 2022, that has definitely, they have gone back to that original expansion logo multiple times. And probably something we'll see from other teams, like the Florida Panthers, when they have winter classics or special event games. The Leaping Panther was never a bad logo. I don't think Panthers fans are going to ever look back on that and say, damn, I never want that to return. but it's a throwback to their expansion logo. And we'll probably see something similar to that with the Panthers as to what we're seeing right now with the Washington Capitals. But it's been, I mean, you do the math, it's been over 10 years, almost 15 years that this has been the main logo of the Washington Capitals. So are we going to see a change there going into 2022? I think we absolutely should. Now, the Capitals may not have to look too far for their new logo. Now, this is a shoulder patch logo, and I'll be showing it here on video for you guys. This is the shoulder patch logo of the Washington Capitals right now. Now, this is something I realized about a year or two ago, and I was like, I never knew that. Now, if you look closely at the Capitals, right, you got the eagle here. Now, if you look at the head of the eagle, right, you look down, there's a weird shape to the eagle. That's right. It's the White House. It's the White House silhouette. Now, that's something that I found interesting, and that would be a really nice just crest logo for the Washington Capitals. Why have the word mark? Because, I'm saying this in the nicest way possible, it looks amateur. I think there's very few teams out there that could pull it off. I think the Oilers have done a pretty good job pulling it off. Showing my bias here, maybe the Islanders have also been pretty good at pulling it off as well. But to literally have Washington Capitals with a hockey stick that's a T and 3 stars, that's the best you could come up with. Now, here's a caveat to why the Capitals wouldn't change their logo. It's the fact, all the history. I mean, they've won the Stanley Cup back in 2018. This has been the Alexander Ovechkin era. This logo will always be defined in the Alexander Ovechkin era because he's been there throughout the entire time that this logo has existed. The Capitals have had some good years. A couple of Southeast championships, Southeast championships to their name, winning the division a couple years under Bruce Boudreau, a couple of successful seasons up until the point of winning the Stanley Cup. So it may be hard for Capitals fans to let go of this logo, but from an outside perspective, I would love to see this eagle, the capital eagle I like to call it, as the main logo on the chest of this jersey. You know, stop playing with it, doing this, the weird W logo for the Winter Classic a couple years back. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. We saw another iteration of that last year in the Stadium Series game at the Naval Academy against the Maple Leafs. And we also saw the weird Caps jersey that just says Caps. That did not go over well. We have not seen that since. So get away from the word marks. We hate seeing that stuff. Bring in the eagle. Bring in the capital eagle as your main logo. I think the Capitals would have a lot of success with that logo. And like I said, they haven't really strayed too far away. We've seen a couple iterations of that expansion. 3 different white variants of that jersey. And 4 different variants of the Washington Capitals red home. And we've seen that 4 different times. So there's 7 different variations of that same Capitals expansion word mark. Just maybe a little slightly different. But there you go. So long overdue. And I think the Capitals, again, I think it would be a nice new look for them. Now here at number 3 is the Los Angeles Kings. I think the Los Angeles Kings they've always struggled to find an identity. I mean, you look at really since their expansion season in the 1967-68 season, they've always had to keep the word mark Los Angeles Kings in there. And I think that's kind of to the fault of their tenant that they host at now Crypto.com Arena, but the Staples Center, the Los Angeles Lakers, because it's a very, very, very similar logo to the Lakers, who have the same thing. It's the word mark with the purple and yellow. So they've had that in different variants up until the 1987 season. They eventually, for the first time, switched to the gray and black, which we're seeing today at this point. And they've had different variants of that logo. They obviously had, during the Gretzky era, the 1998 season going up until 2002. They had the Monarch logo with the lion in there and the coat of arms. And then we saw, I would say, probably their best logo, and that was the crown. By itself, just the crown. I thought that was a nice logo for the LA Kings. You had the purple, you had the little bit of gray, the little bit of black, but you kept the purple in there. And I think, what they would call what is it? Royal, they call it royal blue. It's purple. let's cut the BS here. It's purple. So they got rid of that in their redesign in the 2011-2012 season, where they have their current logo today. I think that was a downgrade for the LA Kings. If I'm going to be honest, I've never been a fan of their current iteration of the logo. It says LA, it's got the crown in there, but if you're not really paying attention, you wouldn't even notice the crown. I think the crown is much less pronounced in their current logo. I liked the big crown on the front. I can't find it anywhere. It pisses me off. But that was a really nice design, and I wish they just went back to that. Keep the LA out of it. We know they're from LA. They're the LA Kings. You don't need to say that. You look at the Blackhawks logo. Do you need to write Chicago Blackhawks on there so you know what it is? No, they're an iconic team, an iconic logo with a lot of success and history. You don't need the word mark of LA there. I think it makes it look bad. The black and white, we've seen that across the league all the time. You don't need that. Just cut it out. Come on. We don't need that anymore. We saw a different variation of that starting in the 2019-20 season. That is up till now the present logo for the LA Kings. It's been successful. They won 2 Stanley Cups in the mid-2010s when they changed it over. They did win some championships with this logo, so it's going to be hard to go away from it. But it's definitely something. I would not be surprised if the LA Kings at some point here in the next couple of years, again, considering they just redid it in 2019-2020, we may not see it leave anytime too soon. It was really, kind of like the Islanders. They just changed kind of the outside lining of it. They didn't actually change the logo all that much, and you guys can see that here. But I thought that was interesting. So the LA Kings, again, bring a lion in there. I like my lions, or just bring back the damn crown. I would be more than happy with that. Maybe do a lion with a crown on his head, right? You could just be something different. And I think the LA Kings would benefit from that. And then at number 2, we've already seen the Carolina Hurricanes kind of stray away from the swirly logo that we've seen since their inception in the NHL. Now, after 2 or 3 seasons, they changed the logo just very slightly. If you look, there's 2 small differences in the jersey. But they've had this same logo since the 1990-2000 season. So they've had this logo for over 2 decades. The Carolina Hurricanes won a Stanley Cup in 2006 with really the Rod Brind'Amour team. But we've seen under the new management there in Carolina that they aren't afraid to stray away from their traditional logo. We've seen different variations of the cane. We saw the original flag, the first iteration of the flag logo. It was just one flag. That's technically a tropical storm, so they had to change it, add the 2 flags, so it's a Carolina flag signal. They did that. So now it's kind of to the point where they're almost in an identity crisis because we don't know which logo they're actually going to stick with. Is it the Canes away jersey? Is it the home flag jersey? Is it the swirly logo? Or is that just being phased out? We don't necessarily know. It just seems to be constantly changing for the Hurricanes. They're one of the few teams that has been able to pull off the red, black, and gray, that scarlet color. They've been able to pull that off very well. I think this is a nice design for the Hurricanes, but I'm not really sure where they're going to go. And if they did go in a different direction, do they just put Stormy, their mascot, the head of their mascot, just put it on the front and call it a day? Again, I would not be surprised with this current regime there in Carolina if they were to do that. If Tom Dundon were to say, let's put the mascot, kind of like what the Blue Jackets did in their expansion, just do that and call it a day, right? I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a pig as the Hurricanes main logo, right? Seeing that on the jersey, that would be pretty cool. So that's it, number 2. And I think, again, I think to some extent we are already seeing that. It's just they haven't really decided who's going to take over the swirling logo as the main for the Hurricanes. And then it gets to the number 1 spot, and I've heard this talked about now for at least a year or 2. There have been some mumblings and murmurs about what the Anaheim Ducks might do to their current logo. Now, listen, I get what they're doing with, it's basically a big webbed foot. That's a big D. Yeah, that's going to get clipped out, I know it. But they've had this logo. It's going to be coming up on a decade in 2023. They've had this iteration since the 2013-14 season, And we've really seen this exact logo since Disney got bought out of the Anaheim Ducks team name as a franchise. So let's go back to the history of the Ducks and their logo. So they're, the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. They weren't even called the Anaheim Ducks. The Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. In the 1993-94 season, we obviously had that very interesting, to say the least, very Disney-esque entrance to the Ducks. If you could look up that video on YouTube, and the Mighty Wing mascot makes his first appearance out of that, I think, 96 car, and they had the Be Our Guest song going on, the people skating around the ice. It was very weird, but that was that time in the Ducks history, and you could definitely tell they went away from that in 2006 when they eventually moved over to their current iteration, which quite fittingly was also not too long before the Ducks finally won their first Stanley Cup in NHL history. So they had that logo for almost 10 years. Then Disney got bought out of the Ducks, and they went much, much more corporate with the logo. It literally is Anaheim and then Ducks. And if you look at the logo, that is the logo the Ducks have today. It's just without the Anaheim and the Ucks. It's just the webbed foot. So, yeah, I'm trying not to say other stuff, but that is the logo of this team. They also switched over after a couple of seasons. They decided in 2010 they were going to make it, instead of that like almost orangey brown color, they kind of went to more of a like a lighter color, but it's basically the same logo. And then obviously in the 2013-14 season, up until now, which is again almost a decade, the Ducks have had the big webbed foot duck as their main logo. Again, it's creative, whatever, but I'd like to see something different in Anaheim. They've had very nice iterations of the Mighty Duck in the past. They obviously had Mighty Wing at some point as their jersey. Again, some people, that's a little bit more polarizing. But if you bring back the original Mighty Ducks of Anaheim logo with the current color scheme, with the orange and the gray, we've seen this already. Just bring it back on a full-time basis. It's got more to it. It's more hockey, and it's just different. I think this logo has just been stale. I mean, if you really look back, in some iteration, this logo has been around since the 2006-07 season. It's been around for a long time, and the Ducks did win their Stanley Cup, but ever since then, they've had a couple of seasons where they probably should have gone further, and it was kind of the definition of the Corey Perry, Ryan Getzlaf, Teemu Selanne era of the Anaheim Ducks. So maybe as you bring in Trevor Zegras, as you bring in Jamie Drysdale, as some of these other young guys are coming up, Troy Terry, you could kind of get a new era of the Ducks in. And I think it would be interesting to see the Ducks go a little bit different. Maybe they go off the path a little bit. Maybe they go with an actual duck. Maybe they have this big buff, Mighty Wing with a stick in his hand, some of his teeth knocked out in his bill. I think that would be really interesting and definitely something a little bit different for a team that, for the most part, since 2006 has been the exact same logo, just very slightly different. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think of these four logos? Do you think it's time for a change for some of them? Is there anybody on this list that you think should come off? Do you think there's anybody on this that's not on this list that should be? Let me know your thoughts down below. And if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.